When developing an Angular app, you will most likely run into a scenario in which you need to use the same code across multiple components. So you may even need to share data between these components, or you may need to fetch data from a database of some sort. So it's these times when creating an Angular service makes sense. So an Angular service is simply a function that allows you to access its defined properties and methods, and it also helps keep your coding organized. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So this tutorial is a part of our free Angular 4 course, and we've already established a project that was generated with the Angular command line interface. So I'm going to assume if you're following along with this course that you've already done that. So if not, use the Angular CLI to generate a project, and then you can hop right in. So it allows us to generate the Angular CLI that is a service. So it takes care of some of the manual labor involved with service creation. So to create a service, we want to hop in at the project folder and simply type ng, G for generate. The type is going to be a service, and then the name of our service, something that will be relevant based on what it's doing. So I'm just going to call this data. Hit enter. Okay, so now upon running it, you may see at the bottom, it says, warning, service is generated but not provided. It must be provided to be used. So what this means is we're going to hop into the project with our code editor, and we want to go to app.module.ts. And so we have to import it in our app module file. So import. And then the name of it. Well, what is the name of our service? Well, if we click right here, we'll see we have data service.ts defined, and we'll see that it says export class data service. That is the name that we need to import. So I'm just going to paste that right here, and then from the location of the file, and then that will be data.service. All right, not done yet. Once we've imported it, then we also have to add it to the providers array. So data service. All right, great. So let's go ahead and save that. And now let's work within the actual data service file itself. Okay, so it looks actually fairly similar. Let me increase the size just a bit, to a component, except that it's importing an injectable, as we can see on line 1, and also it's using it as a decorator on line 3. All right, so the injectable decorator simply emits metadata associated with this given service, which lets Angular know if it needs to inject other dependency into this service. So we're not going to be injecting any dependencies into this simple example service that we're about to create, but it's recommended to leave the injectable decorator for future proofing and to ensure consistency. But you could get rid of lines 1 and 3 and our service would still work. So ordinarily at this point, you may connect to a database to return some results, but to keep things simple here, let's hard code our own array and create a simple method. So underneath the constructor, let's just say we have an array called cars. All right, inside of it we'll have Ford, maybe we'll have Chevrolet, Buick, etc. You get the point. All right, so let's add our semicolon there, and then let's create a method of some sort. So we'll just say my data, and we'll return a simple string. This is my data man. All right, so that is all our very pathetic and simple service is going to be. All right, so ordinarily you'd have a lot of different imports up here if it were an actual service like for connecting to a database, but just for now, just to help you understand the concept of a service, we're just keeping things simple here. Okay, so now at this point, we need to actually use the service in one of our components. That's the whole point. So let's bring our sidebar up here and let's go to our app.component.ts. All right, great. So in order to use a service, it has to be imported. So again, we could just real quickly go back to our app module, copy this line here and paste it. All right, now we can actually use it. First, we have to use it through dependency injection, which is done through the constructor. So we add our constructor here. All right, and then inside of it, we simply add private And then we'll create a name to access this service. So we'll call this data service and data service, which is coming from what we imported up here with the name of it. All right, so now we can access it. Let me go ahead and get rid of this real quickly. That's from the previous lesson. And to use it, let's use the ng on init lifecycle hook. And this simply means that anything defined within this method called ng on init will run when the component loads. So let's go ahead and access the cars array that we created. So we'll just console log it for now. This.data service.cars. All right. Let's also create a property of some sort that we can use in our template up here through interpolation. So let's create a name, some property of type string, make it equal nothing. And then when this is ran on ng on init, we'll say this.someProperty equals this.data service. And we'll call that method myData. All right, great. So let's save. Come up to our template. We'll get rid of our h1. We'll just add a p tag, and through interpolation, some property. All right, let's go back to our console. Make sure you save it. We'll run ngserve if you don't have it currently running. All right, there should be no errors showing up. If there are, then just, ascertain what it is based on the error. Use Google if you need to figure out. Just go back through the steps. Make sure there was no typos or you didn't miss any steps. Though if everything turns out good here as it is on mine, go to the browser and go to localhost 4200. And we could see we have our method returning our string right here. And then if we hit Control-Shift-I, go to the console, we could see our array that was coming out here with Ford, Chevrolet, and Buick. All right, so this in a nutshell are how Angular services work. So you create services that are specific to a given purpose, which can be reused across multiple components in your Angular app.